Hey, Notebook Wagering here, Wednesday night edition, live from the Salisbury Center, fueled by Monster Energy. I am Smitty. Man, it's two guys tonight. Only two guys here, but we're going to try to do our best. I got the man right now. I got to ask Jason. He has the Pittsburgh Pirate hat on right now. How's the parades up there right now? Because they're 4-2. Is it really busy around the city right now?
It is not, but Friday is the home opener. I expect a full parade like Cincinnati. We're going to revert to that mode. The whole city's going to shut down. You know, we're going to give people off. Turns out they were off anyway. But, hey, I'm going to enjoy the hats on because they've earned it. They went up and swept the Boston Red Sox. As a Pirates fan, you have to take these high times because this might be the high point of the season. It might be all downhill from here, so we're just going to enjoy it. The team's playing well. They're playing hard. Like, a lot of good things from the young rotation, so I'm just going to enjoy it. I'm going to rock the hat at leleast for a week until we get back to reality. What do you think about the team so far?
Oh, I love it so far. I mean, you walk around the neighborhood a little bit more pumped up. 4-2, great win today. I mean, we'll talk baseball here in a little bit. But no, the other guys are off tonight. We have a great guest, just a great packed action again. We got, we're going to recap college basketball. Then we got Major League Baseball. And then we're also, did I lose my guy? Is he still here? He's still here. Okay, I lost him on my screen, so I apologize for that. And then we just got, it's Masters, man. Masters start tomorrow, and we got a great guest for everybody. So let's just recap here, Jason. First, let's dive into Sunday. You had the Women's National Championship, LSU with a big win over Iowa. What's your overall quick thoughts on that game? We're having some technical issues.
Pulled the surprise upset on the Final Four. You got me back?
I got you back, man. We lost you for a second. Right. And hey, that happens. Hey, do that recap one more time because I know it's probably fantastic.
No problem. I think what you saw was the better team won. There's no question about that. I think you saw how much Iowa actually got carried by Caitlin Clark. I mean, they didn't even finish that highly in the Big Ten season. So they kind of matched up against a better team. Kind of put the semifinal win over South Carolina in perspective. That was a bigger upset than it looked like when you watched the game because Caitlin Clark basically carried the day there. I thought the stuff at the end was kind of Bush League with the taunting. The first one was funny when she did it at the foul line. She kind of got her back. But when she followed her around the court when she just won a championship, I was kind of like, come on now, what are you doing? Like, you just literally won the national title. And but apparently they're good with it, good with each other. So I guess we're making too much of it. I guess that's what people do on social media these days. The officiating was the bigger disappointment in the whole game. One thing they don't talk enough about with women's sports is that the officials they get are terrible. And it's plagued this game for 30 years now. It's truly what's holding the game back. And they would never do it. But you literally think about maybe if they had a common pool of referees between the men's and women's game. I know the rules are completely different, but they need something like that because you see it in you see it in girls sports in the youth level and you see it in women's sports at the college level that they just don't get the same level of officiating and officials in the game, and it hurts the sport.
Yeah. I went 2-0 on that game. So it was a great game. A lot of action. I mean, LSU, I think, scored 102 points, and the girl from Iowa was just unbelievable the entire tournament there. And so good direction for women's basketball. I think they're going, I agree with you. The officiating was, it was a little iffy early. Wes Reynolds from VEASAN had a great on Twitter, and he said, I think the moment's catching up with a lot of people here. He's like, the refs are struggling, the scorekeeper's struggling. There's a lot of eyes on this game, so let's get it together here. And they did. And yeah, it's too bad that happened at the end there with the controversy. Like you said, I think they are okay with each other. And, a little flash is not bad, but how it was done there at the end, I don't know about that, but we'll move on here. All right, let's go to the guys' game Monday night. You had UConn winning the national championship over San Diego State. And Jason, you had, like, to our audience, we text each other. Man, sometimes it's like 100 times a day between the guys here on the team at Notebook Wagering. And Jason, said, when's this going to happen in this game with San Diego State that they can't make a shot. And it was kind of, they came out okay. I mean, hey, listen, I had a really good college basketball season, but I didn't do very well on Monday night. I was 0-3 because I had a teaser with the under, and then I jumped on alive at 14. I think I got them at 14.5. And I mean, it got down to 5, but it got ugly quick. But Jason said, this is going to happen with, hey, there's Maddie right there coming in here. You got to love getting more people on the team here tonight. But Jason, you said you knew it was going to come, that they were going to miss shots. And man, it came kind of early. I think they missed 14 in a row. What's your overall thought on the game?
Yeah, I mean, if you've listened to anything with VSiN with Paulie Howard, he's talked all year about how San Diego State goes through these droughts, and he's not wrong. Like, every game you watch them through the tournament, they did the same thing, where usually in the first half, there was like a 10-minute stretch where it looked like they forgot how to shoot a basketball. And, they're running their offense, they're getting good looks, just nothing goes down. And you're in a championship game against UConn, just playing about as well as anyone possibly could at that point. You just can't afford to give that lapse, and that's really what the difference was in the game. And they could just never climb that hill. Yeah, I was looking into it for a live bet. I thought, you'd have the San Diego State lull, then you'd have them kind of come back like they have in all these games because they do play good defense. They usually get a few stops, and stops are the keys to all runs in basketball. But they really just couldn't do it. And like you said, got down to 6. Looks like we had a ball game, and UConn hit a dagger 3 right away, and then it was kind of never that close again. So, I mean, it was the best team won. I mean, maybe not the best team for the whole season, but over since February 1st, that's been the best team in basketball, and so they deserved it. Maddie, what did you think about Monday night?
I liked it. I won a little bit of cash on it. I wasn't a fan of the matchup. I'm sorry, but I don't think San Diego State deserved to be there because they played good enough to win and get there. But they were not even remotely close to as good as the other teams that should have been there. I mean, they just got hot. They won some games. A foul call against Creighton got them a win. They didn't have a score. Matt Bradley is their scorer, but he's not a scorer. Would he even start on UConn? He might be their first guy off the bench.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
It's just they were outmatched, and UConn came in super high. I personally was not high on them because I thought they turned it over too much, and then just, I don't know. It's kind of like the unknown with them. We didn't see them play as much. But then when you watch them play, man, everybody moved. They distributed the ball so well. And Hurley did a great job coaching them. I mean, the big guys underneath, perfect. They were a perfect combination this year. And Smitty, and like we said, we talk offline so much. Hawkins is basically Rip Hamilton, Ray Allen in a nutshell, just the newer version of it. He was the best player on the court. I know he didn't win player of the tournament or player of the Final Four, and it was Sanogo, who deserved it because he was rock solid the whole time. Hawkins actually was pretty poor in the first Final Four game because of his health. But, yeah, I'm glad I laid the points. I'm glad I took the over, which was a sweat. But, it wasn't I wasn't even really into the game. I really didn't care for either team, and I thought it was going to get ugly, and it did.
Yeah, I think if you look at UConn last year, very similar team. You look at them this year, Hawkins was the difference. Like, they finally had a guy who could go get them a bucket when they needed a bucket, or could get that dagger 3. When you watch them play in New Mexico State, I think we talked about this last podcast last year, you saw a really good team that just couldn't score, and they couldn't get a basket when they needed one. And this year, they had a couple guys that could fill it up. They did really good in the portal, too, to kind of subsidize their offense, and it showed. You agree, Smitty?
Yeah, they just had, like Maddie said, Bradley, I think he was 2-9. 0-4 from three-point land. I mean, it's just, you're not going to win. The team shot 32%. They shot 26% from three-point land. I mean, it was, Danny Hurley said it doing the interview right before, going into the locker room. He said, we should be up by 20. And they should have. They really should have. I mean, that could have been a blow. I felt like, wow, I still have slightly a chance. Wasn't feeling great about it, but to maybe get a winner there. And then, again, it's what San Diego State has done most of the tournament. They came back, they got it down, and it was like, Jason, you made a great point. Hawkins hit that key 3 because I think it was down to like 5 points, and then he lit it up, and you were like, yeah, this one's over. And, I mean, you just can't have that. I mean, they had just so many guys. I mean, I think Hawkins had 16, Newton had 19. The big guy underneath that was the MVP had, I think, 17, dominated the rebounding, and they shot well from the free throw line. That we said that going into the tournament is key, is guard play and shooting free throws, and they shot 88%. So, I think Matt said it. Were they the better team? Yeah, I mean, they were a good team, and they were a great team because they were 6-0 ATS in the tournament. So that's always a nice thing with that.
Real quick, let's just play for fun. Do you think Florida Atlantic would have gave them a better matchup because of the big guy in the middle and the way they actually it's not that they defend better than San Diego State, but I thought they matched up better than what San Diego State did overall. Do you think it would have been a better game if FAU was in the final?
Oh, man. Jason, why don't you go? I'll let you go.
I actually do. I do, because I think, Matty, you kind of hit on it, is that they had smaller guards, but they were probably a little quicker, and I think that their quickness would have been an advantage. San Diego State kind of matched up size-wise, but UConn's a huge team, so it wasn't really a big problem there, right? You basically had two similar speeds. Florida Atlantic could have played faster with smaller guys and maybe gave them a little problem. Could have went four guards, because as long as you can guard Jackson at the offensive end with a guard, because even though he's like a forward swing type, he's not an offensive player. So you kind of take a little advantage there. So they could have maybe spaced out a little bit better. And Goldman, he would have been overmatched because there was two bigs for UConn. But I think they would have been a little more adventurous. One thing with San Diego State, they're just too vanilla on offense. Like, when the offense goes cold, they run the same plays over and over again. I don't think you would have saw that out of Dusty May. I think you would have saw him kind of change it up and go. And they would have been at least a little more feisty. Like I said, the quickness would have definitely been an advantage.
Yeah, in my opinion, I kind of agree with you. San Diego State, though, was a heck of a team. I mean, really good defensively, tough team, great coach. I really like the head coach. But I kind of agree with you. But I think if you really look at this tournament, though, and this is a great thing when it's done, is you look back at this and you go, how many of these teams that got really far could have lost? I mean, break this down really fast. San Diego State was in a really tight game one. They could have lost in game one. Let's be honest, because I was on Memphis against Florida Atlantic, and that didn't turn out great for me, but that was a loose ball with Memphis had it, or no, who had the ball? I think Memphis had it, and they called a timeout. No, Florida Atlantic had it or something like that. It was crazy. I mean, it could have went either way there. Memphis could have been shooting free throws, and they could have won the game so Florida Atlantic could have been out of this in the first round. Then, you look at a team like Miami, and Drake had Miami beat.
He did.
And then Drake just fell apart. So, UConn was one team, and I think, listening to some other shows, I think St. Mary's had them down by 1, I believe, in that game.
At the half, yeah.
Yep.
So, and then they really put it on there in the second half on them and stuff. It's like you guys said. I mean, I think that's a neat thing when you look back at it and going, man, how some of these teams that really went far, man, it's close. I mean, it's the ball tips in one way sometimes for a reason, and it's really close. So no, it was a really good tournament. I kind of agree with Maddie. It was kind of the national championship game, and I'm not trying to say anything about San Diego State because I do like San Diego State. What's your overall thoughts, really quick? Because I want to get your guys' opinion on this. The girls' game started weird time. It was like 3:30. And then that game's like 9:20 before it's really tipped. I mean, what's your overall opinions on these times with these national championship games?
I don't understand the 3:00 start for the women's game on the Sunday. That could have easily been a 7:00 start and would have got a more national audience. The 9:20 start's kind of traditional, but it is, you don't see that anymore. I mean, Monday Night Football used to start at 9, but you just don't see it anymore. I know you want to get those West Coast viewers, but I guess it's worth it. So, I mean, but yeah, it's tricky on the East Coast. It was definitely a lot of sleepless week of basketball. I'm glad to get some rest here and go to bed at a normal time. What do you think, Matty?
I'm okay with it. I don't mind the men's time. The women's time, I mean, they got so much exposure in the Iowa South Carolina game. I don't know why they wouldn't have repeated it and just put it back to a big time event, but I think it still got good numbers.
It got great numbers.
Yeah, it was high scoring. I didn't really watch it. I had it on in the background. I've been sadly too much work and nonsense. But yeah, the men's game I'm actually really fine with, because I actually used to go out with all my buddies all the time. We'd meet down at the South Side and have a couple beers and watch the game on a Monday night. Get out of the house.
Yeah, but we're getting older each year.
Right.
It wasn't bad back in the day. Let me because I bring my dad into this sometimes. And, the next day I called, I go, well, it's kind of what you thought. And he goes, yeah, I didn't watch much. He goes, I was out. And I said, well, yeah, I mean, luckily I was on spring break. So, I mean, there's been some times that, when I'm working, it's like, oh man, and you can't miss the game. I mean, geez, we've gambled it all year. And you've watched so much. I mean, it's like you got to stay up, and it's, no. Again, I wouldn't mind it a little earlier. The girls' game was weird to me because I thought it usually is like a 7:00, and then luckily I think I saw somebody post something about it. I was like, oh my goodness, because I called my dad and I said, hey, check this girl out. Like at LSU's a good team. They have some really good players. It was entertaining. I mean, I watched because I had a ticket on South Carolina to win it, so that went down in flames on Friday night, and that team's just really good. But that was a weird game too. I mean, they just couldn't shoot jumpers. It was everything off the glass and putting everything in. But that girl is really changing the college girls game, so good for her.
Smitty, did you say South Carolina couldn't shoot jumpers? Or didn't shoot?
Well, that would have been the better. They didn't. Yeah. Way to correct me there. They did not. That point guard, I said to somebody, I said, it has been told not to shoot, or is the worst shooter maybe in the game, because they were leaving her wide open and she just didn't want to do it.
They were leaving three shooters wide open. It was doubled down on each block, and Caitlin Clark in the middle just roaming around. They had no fear of the outside shooting. That's on Dawn Staley. That's not on those girls. That I don't know. I'm pretty sure these girls can shoot. One, teach them to shoot if they can, because that's a 16-foot jumper. That's a basic in basketball anymore. Or two, you still have the size advantage, and we're getting fouls left and right. Keep dumping it down. They went away from it. I don't know. That's all Dawn Staley to me. South Carolina should have been the national championship on talent alone. But hey, we saw what happened. Congrats, LSU.
That's why you play the game.
Exactly. Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's funny. I don't know much about the women's game, but I do know that South Carolina constantly has players. The way they play, they do not take those outside shots. UConn has taken advantage of that. Most of the teams they played against, and they're so good in the post that they get away with it. But it's like, space out, get some shooters. I mean, that post was the best player in the game, and she basically got completely double covered without the ball the whole game, which is insane. It just shouldn't happen at that level.
I mean, I think they out rebounded Iowa by 20, 22 maybe.
They had more offensive rebounds than Iowa had rebounds.
Yeah, nuts. And you lose the game.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on here. We got a little bit before our guest comes on. Let's talk Major League Baseball. We're about week in right now, and I think two of us are a little happy. One's not going to be happy with where his team is right now, but it's early in the season, and I think that team's going to rebound pretty well here. But, guys, I want to ask you, overall, what's your thoughts on the pitch clock and just some of the new things they've brought into the game this year? Maddie, what's your overall opinion on it?
This is so cliche to say. I love it, but I hate it. I like that the games are sped up. I hate how enforced this is. Like, there's no leeway. Manny Machado was going to call time to an umpire. No, he gets rung up on strikes. I mean, come on. I get it. Like, you're trying to speed it up, but you got to give these guys a little bit of a break. There is some baseball mind still at work here trying to grind out, hey, what pitch is this guy going to throw next? Or can I get a sign from the third base coach in time? And now I got to hustle back to the base. And it's great for the casual fan watching because they think the game is now a 2-hour game and works like that. But for us as idiot bettors and baseball degenerates, we don't care if the game goes 3 hours and 40 minutes sometimes, or 3 hours, whatever it is. I just want a good baseball game, period. So I do like it because it speeds it up. And I don't think it's affecting the offense as much as we thought it would, especially early. The ball's flying out of the park still, and guys are hitting. Our guest, Josh Towers, said it might favor the pitchers. I mean, it looks like it's actually favoring the stud pitchers out of the gate.
Yeah.
But these 4 and 5 starters, oh, man, we got some real jokesters out there right now. So I'll turn it over to Jason.
I like it, and I like it. I mean, it looks more like baseball. I mean, the game's moving. You see runners moving because of the bases, which I like. You see with the reduced shift has actually brought back like infielders having to play hitters differently and kind of be able to cover ground and have to make a decision whether they're going to cover the bag or cover the hole, which we haven't seen in like 10 years since the shift came in and kind of ruined all of that. So I like all of that right now. Like I said, as long as, we see ground balls and we see balls in play, I'm all for it. Like, it does seem like pitchers are making a few more mistakes with the rushing. So you're actually seeing some balls get hit. Like Matty said, you are seeing guys. The biggest thing I think you've seen so far, and I don't think Josh really touched on this, is that, he was a guy who worked fast. So I don't think he can relate. But a lot of pitchers like to slow down when guys get on base a lot. The Phillies, I think this is really bugging them because they're a slow staff to begin with. If you look at their numbers on StatCast from last year, they've gotten some jams. They played some decent offensive teams so far. And those pitchers can't get in their comfort zone of like slowing the game down and making each pitch count. And I think it's really bothering them. And I think those guys will adjust. And I think they might even adjust the clock after they see it because they're seeing probably too good of results right now. But I think just overall, everybody seems pretty pleased.
I want to touch on that real quick. Great point. So the Phillies, my squad, really seem unprepared with this pitching thing. And I've already heard everywhere they go now, on the road, in their own bullpens, practice facilities, whatever, they've installed pitch clocks now everywhere because these guys were not prepared, especially Aaron Nola. I mean, and it's showing. They're like, he's scuffling bad. And it's not like he's tipping his pitches, but it's like he's way too worried about now this guy on first. Now he has 5 seconds to process, and I got to get home with this pitch. I can't throw over. Yeah, he looks flat. So, Smitty, I'm not worried about the Phillies. I'm actually just glad baseball is back. Just get me through this work week. Let me grind it out, and then I'll start to get worried.
Yeah, you can't panic.
So when I looked into this, one of the teams that I saw that was actually the quickest working team last year was the Pirates. And I don't know if that's a benefit to them right now or not. It's something I have to go back and look. But they had a staff that actually worked fairly fast, and they're 4-2 right now. They've gotten some really good outings out of their younger guys. I don't know if they just have coached them up that way to work quickly, but you see the benefits. And I do think you'll see that transition here in the next month, but I think it'll even out.
I read an article by Mark Bradley in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution on Monday, and he posted the Braves-Nats game on Saturday was 2 hours, 27 minutes. Sunday was 2 hours, 17 minutes. And then he went into about the one thing I like, guys, I like how they're stealing bases. Now, yesterday it went against me because I had the Padres in my money line best bet that I gave out on Sharp Angle Syndicate. And it was up 5-1, and then the bullpen blew up. And they're squeezing. I'm talking to my dad, and he's trying to talk to me. I'm like, you know what? I got to get off. I got to get off the phone because I was ready to throw my phone through a wall. So with that, but he really went into stealing bases. I mean, this goes back to like watching Little League or Teen League here, man. These guys are gunning all over the place. But he had a great stat in this article. Now, this was a Monday article. Baltimore had 95 stolen bases in 162 games. In 3 games, they already had 10. I really like that. I mean, this kind of goes back. What did we grow up watching? Ricky Henderson, Vince Coleman, Kenny Lofton. I like it, man. Steal some bases. Go ahead.
We use the stupid analogy of Nintendo RBI baseball, where playing with the 85 Cardinals was like the greatest thing ever because you could just steal McGee, steal Coleman. It was the Ricky Henderson triple with 2 or 3 guys.
Tommy Hurd laid down a bunt. Now
looks like
I love it. I mean, I really do. I like the movement here. The overs the other day was like 13-1-1. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, there's a lot of action. I mean, when your team doesn't win, it stinks. I mean, Boston coming in. I think it was 4-0 to the overs, and the first game with the Pirates went way over. Now the last two, I think, went under in that. So but it's entertaining. I really like it.
Yeah, from a betting perspective, though, Smitty, a lot of the VSiN guys and other people listening to on podcasts are saying the casinos, websites, everybody, the books are already starting to catch up, though, at the overs. They've already kind of got it built in. We're going to see way higher run totals than 9.5 and 10 game totals are already popping up. So a lot of double digits coming up for the summer.
Yeah, I mean, we got like another minute or two before our guests come on. You know, Tampa's out to a really good start, 6-0. I mean, they played the Nats. I mean, Patrick Corbin. I mean, oh, good Lord. I mean, just fade that guy. I mean, I'd be fading him I can't believe that guy's still pitching in the major leagues. But, you know, Yankees off to a pretty good start. Seattle's a team. You know, Seattle was playing, I think they were losing again today against the Angels. They have 2 wins, and that was Castillo, the guy from the Reds that got traded over. I'm 2-0 on them. I've taken that money line every time he's pitched. But is there a team has jumped out on you guys that, like, it's a fade or it's a play each day?
Well, I'm just looking right now that the Diamondbacks are +2 on base runs so far. So they really should have 1 win out of their season total. So there's a team to kind of keep an eye on. That's going to normalize there. So that could definitely be an advantage. And everyone else is kind of in line. It's a little too early still to get a good trend on all that stuff. But
I got one.
The Diamondbacks.
I think it's the Brewers. They have a 3-headed pitching monster in Woodruff, Burns, and Freddie Peralta's back. And his first outing looked really good. And I don't know if you saw their lineup, but they have some youngsters who are absolutely going to mash in that park. I believe it's Brian Anderson off to a tear. Nobody knows about this kid. They have another rookie. I wish I would have done more homework. They still have Yelich. Willie Adames can hit the ball. I don't know. In a week, NL Central, I'm going to look to start betting on the Brewers and betting their overs, especially when they're at home. That ball seems to be really jumping out of that park early.
All right, I think we got our guest here. I think we're having some technology issues here with the video, but hopefully we have them. Brady, are you with us?
Yeah. Okay, I see. Look, there we go.
Hey, there he is.
That little button with a camera.
There he is. Hey, we are excited to have Brady Kannon. I mean, this guy is right now doing everything. Heat Strokes golf podcast just came out last night. I mean, you're writing for everybody right now. Golf Bet, golf.com. Man, you're a busy man. How's everything going for you?
It'd be amazing what you can do when you're out of a job, right? No, actually, quite honestly, it's all really good. And are we on air right now? I didn't.
Yes, we are.
Okay,
yes, we are.
I apologize.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
No, in all honesty, I had 5.5 years of an incredible time in my life with VSiN, and I owe them a ton of credit for giving me, some of the opportunities that I have now. And you mentioned, some of the areas that I'm writing. I'm writing for golf.com. I write for Golf Bet, which is the betting division for the PGA Tour. That's really exciting. Do a couple articles for them per week. About 3 times a week, I'm on Sports Grid TV and Sports Grid Radio. And then, like you guys say, I just kicked off the Heat Strokes podcast on Tuesday. Actually dropped late Tuesday night, our first episode. So it took us a while to get the production together and everything. But Matt Humans is my guest host on that one for the first episode. That was a great way to kick things off. And, of course, for Masters Week. So, and then beyond all that, gentlemen, as you know, I make tee times for people coming to Las Vegas, too. So no rest for the weary.
No, you're doing an unbelievable job. So let's just dive right into it. I know the guys will have a lot of questions for you. My first one is, the conditions have been the talk. And I just want to ask you, when you're preparing for this and maybe you have some guys that you're really set on and you're ready to put a bet down on, and then you kind of see the conditions. Again, tomorrow sounds good. Friday's a little rainy. Then Saturday's really rainy and cold. How does that really, just explain your handicapping with this.
It's tough, guys. And, it's almost an afterthought, at least for me. You have to start where you start your process, every week. And you're looking at what skill sets you think are going to be most important at this particular golf course, at this particular tournament. And you go through all that. And then, you don't really know when the pairings are going to be until pretty late in the game. That usually comes out, maybe late Tuesday afternoon, early Wednesday morning, when you're able to see kind of the draw between the early wave and the late wave. And then sometimes, like I think we may have here in the case of this Masters, you'll have a draw bias, if you will. It looks like the late early draw, those that are teeing off late on Thursday and early on Friday, may have an advantage because the kind of the first system of weather is supposed to come through a little bit later on Friday. I think kind of early afternoonish, maybe around 1 p.m. local time there in Augusta, Georgia. So the guys that tee off late on Thursday, we're not supposed to have any problems. It's going to be a little cloudy and really warm. What's odd, close to 90 degrees. And then on Saturday, we go the complete other direction with all kinds of wind and temperatures in the mid to high 50s. You're going to see, I said it earlier on another show today, I think the winner of the Masters is going to indeed be a man for all seasons, as we're getting about 4 of them here in 4 days in Augusta, Georgia. But teeing off late on Friday shouldn't be any problem weather-wise, and probably pretty comfortable scoring conditions. You may get a firm and fast golf course. That'll be Augusta's maybe biggest defense this week, besides some wind and whatnot. But I imagine it's still going to play relatively soft. Then you go back to the sub-air systems that they have, where they can really suck the moisture out. And without a lot of moisture coming down to that point, they can probably keep that golf course pretty firm and fast on Thursday. But then the rain is supposed to come on Friday afternoon. So the guys that tee off late Thursday will go early on Friday, and they can probably, for the most part, at least complete the better part of their round before any weather starts to fall in the area. And I think those guys have an advantage to kind of put a number up there before things get really crazy over the weekend.
Boys,
Brady, first, thanks for matching my energy here with the green jacket. I got one. I even went with the yellow shirt. Yeah. So I'm going to go a little bit different here. So this is the smallest field for the major, and we all love to bet on this. So basically, out of the gate, we can get rid of all the amateurs. We can get rid of the guys over 50. I know the international guys don't do as well at this as typically the Americans and then the British do, but give me 3 names of some international guys that you're really going to keep an eye on this week.
Well, I've actually got a few of them on my card, and you're right, Matthew. The Masters, in a sense, is one of the easiest golf tournaments to predict, and it's not easy to pick who's going to win, but you have a very shrunken field. You mentioned, the old guys, the former champions, the Sandy Lyles and Larry Mize, the debutantes. We haven't had a first-timer win here since 1979. The amateurs, you don't expect an amateur is going to win it. So, you can almost eliminate half the field before we even get started, and it makes this about a 40-person tournament. So you have shrunk the field quite a bit as opposed to a normal PGA Tour week-to-week event where you're trying to pick basically from probably 100 to maybe truly 130 or 40 guys that could possibly win. Now, that being said, the international flavor, it used to be pretty big with Seve Ballesteros and Bernard Longer and Jose Maria Olazabal and Nick Faldo. It has certainly been dominated by Americans recently. But I do have some international flavor on my card. Right at the top, I've got Rory McIlroy. In fact, I have less Americans on my card than international. Rory McIlroy, Hideki Matsuyama, Justin Rose, and Tommy Fleetwood. I'll give you 4. You got 1 extra there for your money.
Love it. I'm especially a fan of the second one you put in there, so thank you for that.
So Brady, you walked us through your process. How did you factor in the live guys this year, considering the courses they play are different than usual and the format that they play in is very different than what you see on a week-to-week basis on the PGA Tour?
Yeah, I didn't land on any live guys, and I wasn't necessarily eliminating them just, out of principle or from the get-go. I was still going to go through my process, and if any of those guys popped up and I thought were worthy of a play, I wouldn't be afraid to act upon it. I did go against one live player in a head-to-head matchup. I took Jason Day over Cameron Smith in a battle of Australians there, and I think there's really probably 2 live players, maybe 2.5, that have a chance to win this thing, and that's Dustin Johnson, Cameron Smith, and Brooks Koepka. You guys probably all saw the Netflix series Full Swing. I didn't think that was a good look for Koepka. He doesn't look focused on his game. It looks like he's still injured. He did, of course, win in Orlando last week, and I think that's given a lot of people hope. But, I think my general thinking on the LIV Tour is it's an exhibition, and they don't have the same type of pressure or workout regimen, I imagine, that the guys on the PGA Tour do. I mean, can you really imagine a LIV player going to the practice swing and hitting 300 putts after a round that he was disappointed with? I just don't see the same sense of urgency, and I think we can relate it to a basketball game, a football game, what have you. You talk about guys that are working out in the off season, and yeah, I'm in shape, coach, I'm in shape. But then there's game shape. They call it being in game shape, right? And I don't know if the guys on the LIV Tour are truly in PGA Tour major championship game shape right now because of what they've been doing for the last year or so. Then there's the other factor here with Dustin Johnson, who, God bless his soul, I love him. He's really the only guy I missed that went to the LIV contingent. DJ, I think, basically was collecting a retirement package. He had done so many things and accomplished so many things in his PGA Tour career. He's won a Masters. He's won a U.S. Open. He's won, dozens and dozens of tournaments, and he's collected a lot of money. And he said, okay, I'm going to grab a little nest egg here and walk off into the sunset. And he's always had this demeanor, but all the narrative of the LIV versus PGA, and is Patrick Reed going to be all upset, and is he going to cause drama and this and that? I don't think DJ has ever cared and still doesn't care about any of that stuff. He just goes out and plays golf, and that might give him the very best chance of any of the guys on the LIV Tour, just because of his attitude. I think you guys know DJ. He doesn't look like he cares about any of that stuff, does he?
Brady, why should he care though? Look at his life. Let's see.
It's great. Exactly. You're right. Spot on.
You know what I was going to say, Matt? You know what I was going to say? Because he said, I miss him. I said, yeah, I do too, because I don't watch any of the LIV tournaments, and I miss seeing his wife on camera. Yeah. So there we go.
So. I would be shocked if in 5 years, him and Wayne are part owners of some franchise coming up.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think Dustin's golf career is near the end. Now, he's still one of the very best players in the world, and I think he probably will have a good Masters. And heck, he could probably win it. I don't think he will, but I think of all the guys in the LIV Tour, he has the best chance. And other than that, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of drama and us versus them and the rivalry. Unless we get a terrific, like a Patrick Reed and a Rory McIlroy in the final pairing on Sunday or something, then there's going to be some drama. But otherwise, I think it'll probably be an overblown topic.
No, I think you hit it really well. I've heard on some shows, Brady, with like Cam Smith, that's one with the LIV that a lot of people were on. And then there was rumors that like his bags were in his garage and he was hanging out with his like mom and sister and just hasn't really played. So, I think that's kind of got some people on, like some people on some of these shows said, I love these guys because they're well rested. And other guys are like, man, they haven't played. So how are you going to handicap this?
Yeah, no, I'm not buying the well rested thing. That's kind of the rest versus rust. Yeah. I think there's probably more rust here. The other factor, we relate it back to football or other, the big sports outside of golf, baseball, basketball. You know how it is when a guy is in the final year of his contract. That's the year we'll usually see that guy shine. And then he gets all the money in the off season, and the next year he often has a dead campaign, or a dud campaign, I should say. Well, it's very similar. It's just human nature. When you sign for $50 million, $100 million, are you really going to be as motivated as you were before that? So I think it's hard for these guys to feel the same sense of urgency as the other guys on the PGA Tour, who clearly by staying there, their motivation has been to win major championships and win on the PGA Tour all along.
Brady, my second.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead,
okay, real quick. The par fives here are just so key. How did that go into your handicapping here? I mean, do you just need some bombers off the tee here, or just even the second shot, the approach is so important here. What's your overall thoughts on these par fives?
Well, you nailed it on a couple of points there, the par fives and the approach shots. Absolutely a couple of the very most important statistics I looked at this week. I'm trying to recall off the top of my head the top 5 statistics I looked at this week. And the Masters has changed a little bit. Back in the day, really prior to 2008 is when they kind of tiger-proofed the course, if you will. Before that, it was really primarily bombers that had a huge advantage. But now it has become a second shot golf course. Bombers still, that you want to have length. It's over 7,500 yards. But it has become more of a strokes gained approach as the priority statistic for winning the Masters. So strokes gained approach, strokes gained around the green, which is, kind of the more modern version of scrambling, which has always been a very crucial statistic around Augusta National. So strokes gained around the green, scrambling, strokes gained approach, strokes gained par 5, and I'm trying to remember the other one. If it was bogey avoidance, I can't. Oh, driving distance. In fact, driving distance. So length off the tee was probably, a while ago the number 1 or the number 2 stat you wanted to look at. Now for me, it's number 5, where scrambling is probably still kind of there in the middle, and approach has gone to the top of the board. The par 5s here at Augusta National, if this weather that's supposed to happen, and again, it's supposed to happen on Friday afternoon, if we get that, you're probably not going to be able to reach every single one of these in 2 shots where you normally would be able to, on a sunshiny day in Augusta, Georgia. And that's really going to be a disadvantage for the shorter hitters here because they won't get as much run out if the fairways are soft and wet. And that'll give the longer players in the field a huge advantage. Also, the 13th hole has been extended by about 35, 40 yards. And if you guys have seen any pictures of that tee box, you used to get up there and it was just wide open. And you try and play it out to the right and have it kind of feed down the hill there. And you try and end up with a somewhat flat shot into that green, a par 5. And guys were hitting 6 or 7 irons. Well, now you're back. Not only are you back 30 or 40 yards further, but they've created a chute. It's just a funnel of trees you have to hit your ball through there on the 13th tee. Quite a narrow chute, similar to maybe the 18th hole. So that adds a level of difficulty. You have to rely on more accuracy rather than just power and distance. You can't just blow it out there and don't care where it lands. And then you're going to end up probably further on the right on more of a slope and less likely to get down into the flat area. And now you've got a 3 or a 4 iron off the side of the hill. You're probably going to see a lot more layup shots on 13 than you did in the past, and probably a lot less eagles as well, especially if the rain comes into play.
All right, Brady, we at Notebook Wagering love what we call sticky notes. So I got one for you. So in the last 12 years, the betting favorite has not won this tournament. Now, we have a 3-way tie at the betting favorite for Scheffler, Rahm, and Rory. So if that stat holds up, who's winning it if those 3 aren't?
Yeah, good question. Well, I hope it's Spieth, Finau. No. I mean, I'll go through. I have Rory. I do have one of the favorites, and I guess you could say he's truly the favorite. In most shops that I've seen, he is the shortest price. Scheffler could go off as the shortest price. I think Rory absolutely has a shot this year. I did play Spieth and Finau and Schauffele, Matsuyama, Rose, and Fleetwood. Rose and Fleetwood are obviously a little bit more longer shots and would have to probably have a little bit more luck go their way than the other guys. But I feel pretty good about Spieth, Finau, and Schauffele. I think, Jordan Spieth is what I call just a Masters savant. He finished second in his very first trip, and he won it in his second trip ever to this tournament, and then finished second the year after that and has 2 third-place finishes after that. 5 top 5s in a relatively short career. and his short game just seems to go to another level at this golf course. You saw what he did, the chip on the final hole, the first match at the Dell Match Play, just absolute miracle shots Jordan Spieth can hit in his arsenal in the short game. And like I say, it seems to even elevate at Augusta National. And then, three of the areas that I really leaned on heavily this week were course history. This is the most predictable course as far as course history, the strongest of all the tournaments they play all year. Guys that play well here typically repeat that year in and year out more so than any golf course on tour. So I wanted guys that are established with a course history here, and then also current form, and then also the correlated courses. I think you have some of the strongest course correlations this week. Riviera Country Club, the Plantation course at Kapalua, Southern Hills, where they played the PGA last year, also Torrey Pines, and then I'm leaving one out that I can't recall quite off the top of my head right now, another good one where you get a ton of crossover success at Augusta National. And Rory McIlroy, Jordan Spieth, Tony Finau, all these guys exceptional at the correlated courses as well. We know how Tony Finau has just been a machine at Torrey Pines. Jordan Spieth has won at Kapalua, the Century Tournament of Champions, as has Xander Schauffele. So these guys check so many boxes for me with course history, correlated form, and current form. They're all playing well. We talked about what Rory has done as of late, won the CJ Cup in the fall, won in Dubai in January, just came off of a third place finish at the match play. Jordan Spieth with a third place finish at the Valspar. Tony Finau has not finished outside of the top 25 in the entire 2022-23 season. So, and Xander Schauffele, Schauffele comes off of a nice finish at the Players Championship, had a third at the American Express, a number of good outings leading up, and another good finish, fifth at the WGC Match Play. So all these guys are hot. They're doing everything right that I'm looking at coming into this tournament. So, I mentioned Rory, but outside of the big three, it would be Spieth, Schauffele, and Finau for me.
I don't know, Maddie. What do you think? Is Finau come off the no-fly list this week?
No. Sorry, Brady. I have Tony Finau on my no-fly list. I don't know. I hate to.
He finally started winning last year.
I know.
He won 3 times in 2022.
That's the thing. Like, he just, to me, is not a closer. I cannot get on board with the Tony Finau train. I'm going to ask you one really dumb question now. There's supposedly like a fun bet. I don't know if books even offer this or not. There is a bet of Bernard Longer to beat DeChambeau again. I guess it's kind of a running bet, the players. And I think Longer is 2-0 in this bet.
That is awesome. I hope it goes to 3-0. That's all I can say. That's super, man. Now, I have not seen that one, but it's great. You love how the books get creative, especially for the big events, the Super Bowl, all the crossover props. Head-to-head matchups, I've seen Sergio Garcia is a pretty decent-sized favorite over Tiger. I'd probably take a stab with Tiger in that one at around plus 110. Here locally in town, the Westgate Superbook came out with will a live golf, a live player win the Masters, and the yes was 5-1 and the no was minus 700. So another creative bet there. That these guys have taken advantage of the whole live PGA deal to put some more offerings up on the menu. I did play top Canadian. There's only 4 Canadians in this field. You've got Corey Connors, Mackenzie Hughes, Mike Weir. Mike Weir would qualify as one of the irrelevant guys for me. Mm-hmm. And then Adam Svensson. And I actually landed on Adam Svensson at 150-1 back in November to win the RSM Classic. And I'm going to play that hand again and see if he can come out as the top Canadian. I got him at plus 325. First round leaders, another, exotic that's an absolute needle in the haystack. It's harder to pick than who's going to win the tournament outright. And I played 3 guys first round leader for very, very small amounts. Colin Morikawa, Jason Day, and Danny Willett. And I'll go a step further with Danny Willett. I think he's kind of a sneaky guy that could fare well this week. His short game has really been on fire since his kind of resurgence to good golf. Once again, you remember after he won the Masters in 2016, he completely fell off the map. Well, he's starting to play pretty well again. Nearly won in Napa earlier this year. In this field, over the last 36 rounds, he is 7th in the field for strokes gained around the green and 8th in the field for scrambling. Very good putter. Obviously knows this place very, very well, having played it a number of times now. So Danny Willett might sneak into maybe a top 20, certainly a top 40 finish, I would bet on Danny Willett. But I bet on him for a head-to-head matchup at minus 135 over Harris English, and then also the first-round leader at 80-1.
Brady, do you have, what's your overall opinion on, well, let's just go. I mean, Tiger's still the big draw. How would you play Tiger this week? And I'm going to also just throw in Phil Mickelson. Like, what would you do there? Make the cut, miss the cut. Where's your play?
You know, I know one guy we had, you guys kindly mentioned our new podcast, the Heat Strokes podcast at the top of the show there. We had Rich Zanko on with his picks, an odds maker here for Caesars in town. And he actually played Mickelson at minus 115 to make the cut. And I don't necessarily like to go against Rich, but I'm not so sure. Mickelson has just been so awful. I mean, I think he's literally shot one round under par since his PGA Championship win. He's a little bit, not a little bit, he's a lot of a mess right now. I think both physically and mentally. But, you know, it's Augusta National, it's Phil Mickelson. Things could be different, and I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if he played pretty decent and made the cut. I don't expect much more than that. Tiger, I think, will play better. In fact, there is a head-to-head matchup out there where Tiger is the favorite over Mickelson, and I think that's the right side. For Tiger, it all comes down to, you know, what he is in a state physically, how his legs are going to be able to hold up. And he was worse off last year physically than he is this year, and he made the cut last year. And you guys have probably heard this before. Augusta National is not a tough golf or not an easy golf course to walk. All kinds of hills, elevation change, and slants, and you know where you've got to keep your balance and whatnot, and a lot of work on the legs. I'm sure Tiger will be receiving therapy, you know, before and after every round. But I think the best bet on Tiger is probably to make the cut. And I wouldn't try a top 20. Maybe if you can find a top 40, I don't know what the price is on that. But to make the cut, he was a pretty decent-sized favorite at about minus 150, and that was the price I saw hung here at the Westgate Superbook by one of the most well-respected golf odds makers in Jeff Sherman, and I certainly respect his opinion. So if he's got Tiger at minus 150 to make the cut, I kind of tend to agree with him.
Brady, I got one more fun question for you. If we had to put odds, well, first let me preface this. Are you a golfer yourself?
Yes, absolutely. I've been playing since I was about 13.
Okay. So if you're on 18 with a full crowd out ahead of you, what's the odds for you to hit a fan?
Well, Greg Norman used to be my favorite player, and, you know, he fanned one right into the gallery when he had a chance to upset Jack in 86, right? Yep. I could see myself doing the same thing. Now, yep. Gosh, you know, it'd be. I did have a moment like that, guys. It's so hard to, you know, ask yourself what would I do in that moment because we're so far removed from that. But I did have a moment here in 2011 where I won the member guest at my local country club. And I remember coming down the stretch and feeling that pressure and trying to do my breathing and relax myself. And it was something. That was my moment of coming down 18. And no, I didn't hit a fan. We went on to win the thing. So there you go.
That was a good question, Matt.
Very good. Very good.
I got one.
I also want to point out, I gave you your first 5-star review on Heat Strokes this afternoon as I listened here preparing for this show. So you can find that podcast on anywhere you listen to podcasts. I'll make sure to get another plug in there for him because, you know, enjoy your work and Matt Human. So what do you think? So here's the question, too, we always throw out there. What would you shoot at Augusta? Have you ever played a course at that level or at least close? And could you like correlate what you think it would translate to at Augusta?
Yeah, I have played certainly a handful of courses that they use on the PGA Tour. I mentioned the RSM Classic. I've played Sea Island in St. Simons Island, Georgia. I've played Harbor Town in Hilton Head, South Carolina. I've played the Plantation course at Kapalua many times. The Plantation course is actually not that difficult. You see the pros take that one down pretty handily into the neighborhood of 25 under par over 4 days if the wind doesn't blow. Sea Island, I shot a good score as well. I think I broke 80 there, or maybe shot right around 80. Harbor Town's tough. And, one thing, I played actually Mayakoba in Riviera Maya near Cancun. I played that course. That course is pretty tough as well. But in playing these courses, it has given me some insight into the handicap. Harbor Town definitely favors driving accuracy. Those are some tight windows there in those fairways, and just an absolutely wonderful course. Augusta, wider fairways, so I could spray the ball around a little bit. I am a pretty decent putter. I don't know if I could handle the putting speed of those greens, but I'm sure I'll say I'm sure I'd break 100. And I'm not. You're not going to force me to play the tips. That's a whole different story. I got to play the from somewhere around 6,600 yards. I could break 100, and maybe I'd say I'd probably shoot around 90. Maybe 88. I'd be real thrilled if I broke 90 at Augusta.
That's fantastic. Good stuff. Good stuff. I don't even want to talk about what I'd shoot there, but hey, Brady, thank you so much, man. We know you're extremely busy. Do you want to plug anything before going off with us?
Well, you guys are so kind, man. And I really have to commend you for kind of the team effort that you guys have put together, and you keep after it week in and week out, and you collaborate there with Ryan Hyatt. I know he's another big fan of VSiN and all the work that all of us have done, all my former colleagues and friends have done. And you guys are right in that same spot as well. So congratulations on, your support and all the support that you've gotten in return. I appreciate you guys continuing to reach out to me to have me on the program. But the Heat Strokes podcast, that's the latest project. The website is deadheatgolf.com. And of course, you can find it wherever you get your podcast. And then you can just find my work at SportsGrid TV, Golf Bet at the PGA Tour, and golf.com. And right here, of course, on the Notebook Wagering podcast on occasion.
Well, we really appreciate it, man. We're big fans of yours. So thank you again for coming on, and take care.
All the best, guys. Thank you. Enjoy the Masters.
Thanks, Brady.
You too. Thank you very much. What a great guy. Good guy. Great. Just golf stuff, man. He's right on it every week. I really enjoy hearing his stuff.
We got 3 more majors to get him back on.
Oh, we'll get him back on. So where are we going? We got about, let's wrap up in like 2 minutes here, 2-3 minutes here. Where are we going here, Maddie, Jason? I have not made any bets. I wanted to hear Brady stuff. I'll be very honest with you. We do a golf draft, all 3 of us here, and we're in that. And my brother-in-law sent me something, a new thing that I did, and I picked some players. I might change some of those up. I don't know if that was some of my players I really like. But anybody have any plays yet?
Yeah, I'll rattle off a couple quick. I actually am going to put money on Cam Smith. I actually just think he's just built for the course, and he is such a good putter that's kind of an equalizer. So if he's got a little bit of rust, he still knows the course well. And then of course I look at stats galore, and the one who checks off every bucket, even though I contradict myself, is Rahm meets every freaking bucket possible. And one of the big ones is strokes gained tee to green, and they have it broken down over the last 4 tournaments for every golfer prior. If you're at 18 strokes gained for those prior 4 tournaments, you're the winner, and he checks that box off. And he's the only one who checks that box off. And I'm like, oh, man. But then it goes against the betting favorite, hasn't won it in 12 years, and he's part of that crew. So I'm actually going to go a couple longer shots. And we do that golf draft. I do like Sung J M to sneak in. I do like Matsuyama to get up there. And I'm going to go one longer, and Jason and I have talked about it all the time. Take a flyer on Min Woo Lee to finish top 20.
I've heard his name on a lot of shows, Matt. Good call there.
I don't think he's going to win, but he's built for the course, and he's young enough, fun enough. He's a really good Twitter follow, too. So, yeah, hop on board, give him a shot. Take a little piece of money on him.
There we go. Jason, you got anything in play?
Yeah, I think I'm going to look at Corey Connors. He was a guy I know that we mentioned that he's not the top Canadian according to Brady, but actually he's a guy who's played really, really well. He's a guy I drafted, and it seems like he just kind of the course that suits his eye. And it seems like this is the most horse for the course there is. And Brady touched on that. It really is. Like, guys either really excel here or they just don't get it. And I think he's a guy, for some reason, it just fits his eye. He's not the greatest around the greens and anything like that, but he's a great ball striker, and that's probably what suits him. I'll definitely put some money on him. I like Sunjay Im as well. He's fortunate enough to draft him. I think he's a guy who's live with a little bit of juice, but I think favorites are going to be in it. I think this is the tournament where Rahm or McIlroy really kind of need to step up, because everything looks like this is all set up for them to do well. So it's time for them to beat Scotty.
Hey, real quick, you just threw that name out there, which I'm going to throw out there. If you see Rory in 17th place to start off Sunday, throw some money on him to finish top 5.
Oh, absolutely. We joke about that all the time.
Backdoor's way into Sunday.
Great call there by Matt. I love. No, I'm gonna go home and do a little bit more homework. I'm gonna put it on Twitter tonight, and I'm excited for it. I wish the conditions were better, because if we get a lot of delays and everything gets pushed back, that's gonna stink. But it's just a fantastic tournament. So good luck everybody that's playing it. So. All right, guys. Anybody have anything good for the group?
No. It's good to get golf season kicked off. It's good to get baseball kicked off. We've transitioned out of the winter sports. We are now officially into the spring sports.
Yep. Spring's on us. It's time for everything to get going. NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs coming up. Can't wait. It's going to be a great about 3-month run here.
Yeah, college baseball too. Check out Q's new podcast, little bit College Insiders there with Matt. It's very good. Check my plays out at Sharp Angles Syndicate. Big winner today, the Brewers. Matt brought up the Brewers. Man, they tried to blow one, but then they came back, scoring a lot of runs there. So we're doing a lot of things. Yeah, the sports are fantastic right now. So everybody enjoy it. Enjoy the Masters. Best of luck. Hopefully you can catch some tickets this weekend. And until next time, we'll see you.